Sri Sai Ram. Nice to see everybody today. Today we have a big subject, water, one of the 5 elements that the whole creation is made out of. We'll start with our pre-reading activity. Recall the poems you have read where water has been used as a metaphor. Water, of course, refers to our emotional body, and we all know that our body is 75 to 80% water. So we're very much interested in water. And poems and stories are written about water. In fact, the students have written a beautiful poem about water I'd like to read to you. Water, water, everywhere, to wash my hands and wash my hair. It's nice to drink it by the pool. Slurp it, spit it, nice and cool. It comes from the clouds, don't you know? Falls as rain and also snow. Keep it clean, or you will be sick as sick can be. We all know that dirty water is not good to drink. We have to have clean water. We are lucky here at school. We have clean water to keep us cool. We drink water every day. In its pool we like to play. So students, especially here at Mudnahalli, they enjoy plenty of water. But the author here, Chalupi Swaruparani, grew up as a Dalit in a Wada community next to a village. And she had problems 35, 40, 45 years ago as she was growing up with water. And she wants us to realize how lucky we are with the water. So another poem that I'd like to tell you about is called a haiku. Haiku is a short poem, only one line, that gets you to think. And the poem is gentle waves rolled in scarlet sunset. We've all seen water on lakes or on rivers, and when the sun hits it in the morning or the evening at sunset or sunrise, the colors are beautiful, orange and red, and the water reflects it perfectly to us. There's another poem, a lover's poem, and it tells about the ocean that is between us. And the ocean refers to the space that is between the lovers. It feels like when the lover is gone, there's an ocean of space between the two. So the ocean of water works as a metaphor here for space. There's another poem called Water, Water, Everywhere, and Not a Drop to Drink. This is written about a man on a raft in the middle of the ocean, and he's thirsty, and he has water everywhere around him, but the quality of the water is not drinkable. So we have to be careful with water to drink good quality. And then my favorite poem about water is using water as a metaphor for life. And it's called Water Under the Bridge. And here's the poem by Sonia Walker. When things occurred in the past, and you were worried about it all, changing your dreams into nightmares, catching you in mental snares, it is only water under the bridge. All of our experiences is water under the bridge flowing along. The poem goes on. It is only water under the bridge. Grudges kept for years are hard on the soul. Time passes, but forgiveness does not. As you can remember, someone made you mad, hurted you bad, leaving you in a state of being perpetually mad. But you have to remember, it is only water under the bridge. Hurting others along your journey of life makes you feel guilty and downright wormy. Apologize to the person if you possibly can. If not, say it out loud to yourself and be a man. Remember, it is only water under the bridge. Today is what counts, and yesterday is gone. All your strife and worry is a waste of time. Broken hearts waltz with sorrows. Make the choice not to live in the wallows. Remember, it is only water under the bridge. Water is both a preserver and a destroyer. They want us to discuss this matter before we get into the poem. We all know that we need water. We're 80% water. We have to drink at least 2 to 3 liters of water a day just to maintain our health. But water can come in a destructive manner in the form of tsunamis. We've heard about the tsunamis, the one that came in India in 2004 and killed many people. And then water can come in floods. We have too much water. In Kerala recently, we had big floods that hurt a lot of people and property. We can drown in water. We go swimming. We lose our balance. We get sucked under by a current, and we can be drowned. And then if you're up north, near the Himalayas, you can have an avalanche of snow. Snow is a form of water. And you can be hurt by that or even pass away. Now we'll go into the poem. And she starts the poem off very sweetly. And she says, just as the water knows the ground's incline. You can see we have here some small hills, small mountains, and the water comes off of these mountains and goes into the lake, okay? Very gently, very sweetly. And you can see the reflection of the mountains and the shoreline on the lake. This is how we want our mind to be, nice and calm, just like the water. But the water knows generations old strife between the village and the Wada. Okay, so when she was growing up, and she was born in 1968, the Wada people, the Dalits, lived outside of the village. And they had a hard time getting water. And this is what she wants us to remember. And she refers to the well. They had to go to the well to get their water. And she says, the water knows everything, like the dampness of the well's edge that never dries. It knows the untouchability that never disappears. Now, it's been thousands of years since the time of Jesus, and Jesus had gone to the well also, okay? And she refers to that it knows the difference of race between the Samaritan woman and Jesus the Jew. Jesus the Jew, the Jewish people were a very high order of people. And he went to the well and didn't have a container. And there was a Samaritan woman there, and she had a container. And he asked her, may I have some water? And she looked up at him and said, but you're a higher caste. And he goes, it's no problem. I'd like to take the water from you. And she was honored to give him the water. And this was a precursor to the society right now. 2,000 years later, we should take water from anybody as given in a nice way, given with love. And we should not have any discrimination of which caste the person is in. You can see the lady waiting for her turn to get the water. And it also says that the dampness on the well's edge. On this particular well, you can see there's not much dampness here. All of this prejudice is leaving us now. The water, which is omniscient means it knows everything. It knows the difference in the subcaste between the leather and the spool. So she uses poetic words to describe this caste of workers, and that the people that are weavers, like we have a weaver here, has a slightly higher caste than the cobblers. But what the author is trying to get here is, why should there be this caste difference? Why doesn't everybody who's made out of 80% water enjoy the water and not have any problems with it? She goes further. When she was growing up, it knows the agony of the Panchama. Panchama is the 5th class that she was a member of, who, not having the right to draw a pot of water, waits all day near the well with his empty pot or her empty pot until the Shudra arrived. And then when the Shudra arrived, he had access to the well water, and he would pull the water out and give it to her. And then it goes further, though. She goes, even though the Shudra would give the water, sometimes he didn't give it in a nice way. And in the poem, she says, it knows the humiliation. Here the poor girl, who's a Dalit, is waiting with her bucket, waiting with her pot, and all of a sudden the Shudra pours water in her pot, and she gets wet. Of the Wada girl, who he poured the water on from a distance. Because she's over there, he pours the water in the distance, and it falls all over her and touches her. And if it's hot out, she feels good, but otherwise she thinks, well, it's not nice, I'm getting all my clothes wet. And she had this happen to her, and this is what she's explaining in the poem. It knows the righteous rage of Karmanchedu Suratama, who opposed the Kama landlords with her water pot when they asked her not to pollute the pond water. She came to the well, and a boy was there, and some of the boys from the village came and they washed their pots. They were feeding buffaloes, and the pots were full of food and everything, and it was going into the water. I'll explain this more later with a person's own revelation of this. But the food was going into the well water that the Dalits were drinking, and the one boy objected. And Suvartama tried to defend the boy because the other two boys from the village were going to hurt the boy. And you see, these are dewdrops, and the dewdrops are pure. So the Dalits, the people who came from the Wada, were trying to keep the water absolutely pure, purer than the people in the village. It's very interesting. The water is witness to centuries of social injustice. Ever since the time of Jesus, there's been little squabbles going on over the water. And even now, in between states, they're fighting over water. Water is required, but there's no reason to fight over it. God has provided enough water for everybody. We just have to share and care. When I see water, I remember how my Wada would thirst all day for a glass of water. She lived in this Wada just outside of the village, but they never had enough water, never had sufficient water, and they were thirsty a lot. They would have to go to the well and wait their turn to get the water. And this is the memories that she has. And she's telling this poem to us so that we can be more generous with our water and more sharing and caring and make sure that everybody has access to pure water. And you can see the glass of water reflects the whole creation here. One glass of water can show all of the air, the clouds, and the earth. Because, she said, for the water class, for us, water is not simply H2O. That's the chemical composition, 2 hydrogens, 1 oxygen. For us, water is a mighty movement. It is the Mahad struggle at the cheddar tank. A single drop of water embodies tears shed over several generations. So it's more than just this one bottle of water with H2O. The water is the witness. It's watching how men interact. She goes further. In many a battle we fought for a single drop of water. Our blood flowed like streams, but we never managed to win even a small puddle of water. She's saying that back in those days, 1975, 1985, there weren't pipes, big pipes coming from big wells. And Sathya Sai Baba had not done his water system yet to the driest parts of India. And people had to struggle to get water. In fact, the cheddar tank was an exhibition of the people's rights to go and get water. Ever since India was a free country in 1947, they've made laws saying you cannot discriminate. And these laws are coming into effect now. In the cities, there's no discrimination. But out in the villages, there was still some discrimination at the time she was writing. And now, with prayers and writers like Rani, this is slowly becoming to an end. And we can all have water and all enjoy it. But she's writing in her poem, when I see water, I remember how we welcomed our weekly bath as if it were a wondrous festival. You see, they would go to the well, get some water, and put it in their own containers in their house. But they just had enough to do their cooking and a little bit of washing, and they would never have enough to take a bath each day. they would wait till Sunday, and they'd have enough water that everybody could take a nice bath. So they look forward to this once a week bath, and they had such a good time. They would spend an hour, soaping themselves up and washing off and everything. And you can see this picture of a beautiful creation of Baba. It's an apple tree, all right? And it's perfectly reflected in the water. So these people that had to wait for a week to take a bath, they appreciated their bath more than these people in the village who were taking 2 baths a day. And for them, it was just everyday occurrence to bathe. But now she is enjoying the bath, and she respects water. And she enjoyed it much more than these people who had 2 baths a day. And she reflects more when she sees water. All of the water brings up emotional ideas for her. When she sees water, she remembers her childhood, 45 years ago. That's over 2 generations of people. And she prayed. She prayed, and all these other people have prayed a lot. And because of the prayers, we realize now that we're all brothers and sisters. And people everywhere realize we have one Father and one Mother who is the Godhead. And we're all brothers and sisters, and we all have to share. So she remembers that she would have to walk miles to reach a big canal or a big pool, a pond like this, to get their water. And they would carry it back, these heavy pots. We've all seen the ladies with their pots, and with muscles and veins on their necks straining. Of course, she was a young girl at this time, and her parents had her carry these big pots, and she could remember that. And she wants us to really appreciate water now and to help other people when they're carrying their water. And then she goes further. She was there when this town of Malipali, many of the huts burned because there was no water to stop the fire. In the middle of a hot summer, when there's not much water and a fire starts on one hut, if you can't quench that fire with some water, then it will spread to other huts. And she watched this whole town, a lot of the huts burnt down. And it was hard to put out because there was no water. So you can see here, one little match can start a whole fire here on a house. But she goes further. She goes, water is not a simple thing, is it? It's a complicated thing. Water is everywhere. It's involved with many things. And so she says, it can give life. Of course, we want to drink water. We love to have water. But it can also devour lives. You can see a picture here. This is actually in South America. And this wave, a tsunami wave, is over 100 feet high, maybe 130 feet high. And it's about ready to crash into this beachfront village, with the high condominiums in it. And it caused much damage. And so she refers to the water that refused to quench parched throats became the killer tsunami wave that swallowed whole village after village. She's referring to the 2004 tsunami that started off the east coast of India, and it affected 14 countries. And it killed over 228,000 people in 14 countries. In India, almost 11,000 people were consumed by this tsunami. And here's a picture of the tsunami coming in. It had already devoured one village, and it's on its way to another village. And these people would sit there and take pictures. But you have to be very careful, because these tsunamis move in quickly. And a lot of times, they would get caught up in the tsunami. And she goes further. She goes, the poor, because mostly the poor people live right on the water, But there's rich people also that get hit with these tsunamis. She goes, the poor are but playthings in its vicious hands. Often it turns villages into dry deserts. When she refers to this line, this is during a drought when there is no water and the wells dry up. So in the villages, some people, they have no water and they can perish without any water. But a lot of times there's too much water and the water comes in and it drowns the people in floods. Here is another picture of the tsunami. You can see the waves are up here, higher than the hut. And this wave is coming in. It's about ready to capture this whole village. And the people are looking at it and they're just starting to run. And this person just snapped this picture and he ran as fast as he could. He still got a little bit of water that surrounded him, but he was able to save his camera and give us this nice picture. He said, as he turned around, all of the concrete homes were smashed, just like little toothpicks. He said the water was so powerful, it just destroyed everything, all the trees and all the homes in its way. Then she goes further. She goes between the village and the wada. The village, of course, is where the people that have more money live, and the wada is the outside for the poor people. Between one state and another. Here, she's referring how, for instance, in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, there's an argument over the Kaveri River. Hey, you're taking too much water over here. You're not giving us enough. They're having a fight over this water that's in the Kaveri. And the Kaveri is here to give water to both states. They should get along, and just enjoy the water and not fight over it. But she says this is what happens. The water can ignite many a struggle and strife. It can make blood run in the streams. But actually what's happening? The water is a witness. It's watching how the humans fight over who's controlling the water. And then she says, we can sit there in a Beeslery bottle, innocent, all right? Even though the water has caused fights and sometimes death, it sits there innocently in a Beeslery bottle. And you can see this is the Rockstar bottle. They make it real pretty, so when you buy the bottle, you get good, clean water. And they charge you basically to change the water that has been dirtied up into good water that you can drink. The water is always the witness. This water from our village well that forces us to do many a circus feat. She used to carry these big pots. You've seen the ladies carry the pots on their head, and one on each arm. And it's like a circus act. There's such a nice balancing that they do. Slowly, surreptitiously, dances its way into the Pepsi man's bottle. Now, this is the newest bottle. It used to be called Pepsi, mineral water. Now it's called Aquafina. Aquafina is a fancy word for water. So they can charge a few rupees more for each bottle. And its new name, mineral water, actually mineral water was an older name, now it's called Aquafina, but they charge for this clean mineral water for people to buy it in the stores. And it takes the water to the skies. Once you drink the water, and it goes into the streams, it gets evaporated and it goes to the skies. It raises a storm, and the storms cause the rain to fall down. It's the evaporation cycle. So we fight over fight over the water. The water leaves, and where the plants are, we are like plants ourselves. We need water to live, and the storm brings the water to us. So she ends up the poem, now, water is no mean matter. Mean means small matter, tiny matter. It's a multinational market commodity. It's sold all over the world. As they say, she continues, water is omniscient. It contains the world. So she's saying, here, we are water, all right? We're omniscient. We know all. The reflection you can see on this one little tiny ball of water, the ball reflects all of the world around it. So we are all drops of water and we are all omniscient. So as we learn to love all and serve all and share with all, we get more joy, we get more love. The world works much better. And this is the message that Chalapati Swarupa Rani was trying to convey to us. She wants us never to go back to these old days when there was this caste difference at the water wells. She's born in 1968, and all of her works were translated by Uma Brigubanda. She's a very smart lady, and she realized that Chalapati Swarupa Rani really told the truth of what was happening 2 generations ago, and even up to the early 2000s. There was still this prejudice going on in some of the outlying villages. So Rani began writing about her experiences. She first started writing how hard it was to carry the water and all of these things. Then she moved from the personal to the social. And she goes, this is affecting all of society. Why should we not change society and the way society looks at water and looks at the rest of our brothers and sisters? And she attained confidence and clarity. The more she wrote about bigger subjects and more godlike subjects, she got more clarity. Her mature poetry consciously deals with issues of gender, male and female, and caste. The caste system has been outlawed in India, but still out in the villages, they still practice it, some of the older people. And she's trying to get that not to happen anymore. And the two stories that she wrote are Nila Meghalu and Chikavatuma Pata. These are some of her works. Then Uma Brigubanda saw these works and translated the best of them. She teaches at the Center of Cultural Studies at the English and Foreign Languages University in Hyderabad. She is currently writing her doctoral dissertation on Telugu cinema and the production of religious and secular subjectivities. So she's in the right place, being in the Telugu-speaking area. Now that we know the poem, let's go into what we've learned about English in the poem. First of all, we have our glossary. And we have 3 beautiful words that we've learned about. The first word is Wada. Okay. Wada is a locality where the Dalits live. They don't live right in the villages. They're very economically poor, so they live outside in what's called the Wada. Then there's the Sumerian woman. All right? This comes from the Bible. This is in the New Testament. She's the woman at the well that offered water up to Jesus. And Jesus accepted it. And she was very happy to give it to him. He was happy to take it. 2,000 years ago, no differences at the well. Panchama, 5th category of the Varna system. If you're not a priest, if you're not a fighter, if you're not a businessman, if you're not a Sudra, you are a Panchama, which is lower than the Sudra class. Then we have a note. I described to you earlier what she was talking about. And this was a Dalit writer, describes the incident that happened way back on July 16th, 1985, 35 years ago. This was the last major incident that caused many people to get up in arms. And what had happened was there was a Dalit boy trying to get water from the well. And he was watching these 2 people come from the village who had just fed their buffaloes. And they had these big buckets, okay, with old food that they had fed the buffaloes. And they took the buckets and put it right in the well and washed these buckets. And the Dalit boy says, hey, we're drinking from that water. It'd be nice for you to take the water out and wash them on the side. Well, these 2 boys were rich and arrogant. And they go, why are you telling us? This is our water. We own everything. And they got mad at this Dalit boy. So the lady, Suvarta, she saw this, and she saw the 2 boys coming against this Dalit boy. And she ran in front and held up her pot and said, no, don't hurt these boys. Anyway, the 2 boys went back to the village and said, look, these Dalits are complaining about us. Let's take care of them. They got a bunch of people that evening, and they went in and they hurt seriously many people in the Wada, and actually killed 6 of these Dalits. So this was told everywhere in India, and then people realized, look, this cannot go on anymore. People have to love each other and care for each other, not be fighting with each other. So we have a series of questions. for the knowledge that we've derived from this beautiful poem. The first one is the expression, generations old strife. What does that suggest to you? The bane of the caste system? A. Politics of revenge? C. Difference among humans. A is the right answer. It's the bane of the caste system. That's why it's been outlawed in India. No more caste system. 2. It knows the subcaste difference between the leather and the spool, between the cobbler and the weaver. The water knows everything. It was watching all of us. It's omniscient. So the answer is C, cobbler and weaver. Number 3, how is water a witness to the humiliation caused to the Dalits? Well, water pouring down on a Dalit when the Sudra is filling up her thing is very humiliating. It's not a nice thing to do. Plus they had to wait all the time to get their water. All of these things the water is watching, and it's showing the difference between these classes and the way people are treating each other. 4. What does the speaker remember when she sees water? She remembers if she was thirsty all the time, and she only had one bath a week, and she had to wait in line so much, and she had to carry these heavy pots. And she also remembered the burnt huts. She remembered without water, you can lose your home. She goes further on number 5. And circus feet. What is a circus feat? In a circus, you have these clowns and these entertainers, and they do feats. Well, carrying a pot on your head and 2 pots on each arm, that's a circus feat. It refers to carrying water on heavy pots. Number B is the correct answer. Balancing the water pots on your head. 6, water is, and because it's talked about water throughout the whole poem, there's several answers. And here, even though water is called liquid, that's a simple answer. It's a catalyst for movement, that's also correct. But the answers they're looking for on the test, when you take it, are C, D, E, and F. The water is a witness. It's omniscient. It watches the strife. It's a life giver and destroyer. It gives you life. It can destroy your life. You have to be very careful. Means to practice untouchability. Right. These rich people would come and say, you're an untouchable. You cannot take the water until the Sudra comes. It was a means to practice untouchability. But now it's been outlawed. Profit-making commodity. And she ends up her poem saying, look, these Bisleri bottles, these Pepsi bottles, they're taking the water, which God created, and they're selling it to people. We can see the nice picture here, this beautiful water, which God created, and it made it so beautiful. Now we're putting it in bottles and trying to sell it. Comprehension level number 2. Discuss the travails suffered by the Wada people to get water. We've already discussed it. They had to wait in line. They had to be humiliated. 2. For us, water is not simply H2O. What does that suggest? A, its chemical significance. That's true. It's H2O. B, it's a common resource available to all. Well, not everybody gets equal access to it back in those days. Now we have it available. C, a symbol of the struggle against discrimination. So C is the correct answer they want you to put. It's the struggle of her and all of her writers and other people that have been praying against discrimination. 3, what does the contrast, some people taking a bath once a week and others twice a day, connote? She's saying, look at the difference here. We get to take a bath once a week. We enjoy the bath, but we only have enough water to bathe once a week. Whereas the people in the village who have piped in water and have free access anytime they want to the well, they're taking 2 baths a day. So she's saying that this is causes discrimination between the 2 classes. Number 5, look at the expression, many a circus feat, and dances its way into the Pepsi bottle. What contrast do you notice between the 2? Well, it's an obvious contrast, okay? The many a circus feat, these poor Wada people had to balance and carry these heavy pots for many miles sometimes. But these multinational corporations now, they dig a well and they have the water pumped up by electricity and they sell it in bottles. It dances into the bottles. No sweat, no work. So that's the difference that she's looking for here. We'll go to comprehension number 3 now, and this wraps up her poem. How does the poem demonstrate the disparity and discrimination in society using water as a symbol? It's obvious. It's the rich versus the poor. This is a constant theme, and now with her writings and prayers, and people realizing that we all have one father, we have one mother, we're all brothers and sisters, we are finally coming around to the point where we share with each other. 2, how are the poor affected by a lack of water? Well, first thing is they have no regular baths. They don't have enough water to drink. B, denial of water. Denial of water, in the olden days, they used to have to wait for water, and they were humiliated. C, the fury of nature. Now she's referring to tsunamis, floods, avalanches. If you're up north, up in the Himalayas, you can get an avalanche of snow, and snow is water, and it can smother you. In fact, when I lived in America, my next door neighbor was cross-country skiing, and he was coming down a gentle slope, and a little small type avalanche, just a foot or two of snow, went over his skis, knocked him over, and covered him with 1 foot of snow. And he was with his brother and his dog at the time. And it was such a small amount of snow, they were looking for him, they couldn't find him. And the brother panicked, and he ran to get help. And in the time before he got help, came back, my neighbor had actually, he's smothered to death under the snow. 1 foot of snow killed this boy. So we have to be careful with water at all times. And then the last question is, trace the journey of water from ancient times as a symbol of purity to the age of multinational market where it is a commodity. So what we have here is the upper class used pure water. Water has always been a symbol of purity. We use water in all of our Vedas, all of our activities, all of our pujas. We use water to cleanse everything. But they, upper class, used to deny it to the Dalits. Make them wait, humiliate them, okay? And now it goes into the tsunamis and causes problems even for the rich people. And now the mineral water is being harvested, okay, and brought up from the wells and sold around the world. But it depletes the groundwater, so the wells have to go deeper and deeper. So what have we learned? What have we learned, like this beautiful dolphin here? What have we learned about the water? We have learned that everyone is water, 80% water, and that water is omniscient. When we feel good, we're omniscient. We know when other people feel good. We know when the water is being distributed fairly and when it's nicely given. We are rapidly approaching a new age of love and caring for all. It makes us happy when we care and we share water and make sure everybody else has water. We're happy. We can no longer make any judgments on any of our brothers and sisters. They're all made out of water, and water is omniscient. We should enjoy the wonderful differences between our dear brothers and sisters. And like children, and like the poem that I read to you earlier, we enjoy the water, we play in the water, we have a beautiful time. Thank you for your kind attention.